The massive space station called Nexus Prime hung in the darkness between the stars like a metal city. It was bigger than Earth's moon and home to the Galactic Council. 12 different alien species lived and worked here, making laws for thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked down the long hallway toward the council chamber. His black diplomatic uniform felt heavy on his shoulders. He had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 10 years, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. The hallway was filled with aliens from many worlds. Some looked like giant insects, with clicking legs. Others were tall and thin like walking trees. A few had blue skin and too many eyes. They all stared at Hyunwoo as he passed. Their looks were not friendly. "Ambassador Kim," called a voice behind him. Hyunwoo turned to see Counselor Thren, one of the few aliens who had always been kind to humans. Thren looked like a large cat, but walked on 2 legs and wore flowing robes. "The council is not happy today," Thren said quietly. "They have been talking about humanity for weeks. Be careful with your words." Hyunwoo nodded. "Thank you, my friend. What are they afraid of? Your ships, your colonies, your technology. They say humans are growing too fast and too strong." Thren's cat-like ears drooped down. "I tried to speak for your people, but they would not listen." The great doors to the council chamber opened with a deep sound like thunder. Inside, the chamber was huge and round. 12 high seats were arranged in a circle, each one holding a different alien leader. At the center was a platform where those who spoke to the council had to stand. Hyunwoo walked to the platform. Above him, the 12 council members looked down like judges. The biggest seat belonged to Chancellor Vextar. He was from the Dominion species and looked like a giant lizard wearing golden armor. His yellow eyes stared at Hyunwoo with hate. "Human," Vextar spoke, his voice loud and cold. "You stand before the council today to hear our decision about your species." "I am honored to speak with the council," Hyunwoo replied, keeping his voice calm. "Honor?" laughed another council member. This was General Korth from the Hegemony species. He looked like a huge crab with metal parts attached to his shell. "Humans know nothing of honor. You spread across the galaxy like a disease." Hyunwoo felt anger rise in his chest, but kept his face peaceful. "Respectfully, General, humans have followed all galactic laws. We have started colonies only on empty worlds. We have traded fairly with all species." "You lie!" shouted Vextar, standing up from his seat. "Your military grows stronger every year. Your technology advances too quickly. You threaten the peace we have kept for 1,000 years." Back on Earth, Captain Sujin Park watched the meeting through a quantum communication link. She stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride, humanity's most advanced warship. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew this meeting would decide humanity's future. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Du Hyun at the communications station, "the signal is clear. We can hear everything." Sujin nodded. She had served in Earth's space navy for 20 years. She had seen humans and aliens work together on many missions. She had hoped for peace. But the angry voices from the council told her that peace might not be possible. On the council platform, Vextar began to read from a long document. "The Galactic Council has made its decision about the human threat. You will follow these orders, or face the consequences." Hyunwoo listened as Vextar read the demands. Earth must give up 80% of its military ships. All space stations around human worlds must be destroyed. Human colonies could only grow if the Council said yes. Worst of all, alien observers would be placed on Earth and all human worlds to watch everything humans did. "These terms are not acceptable," Hyunwoo said when Vextar finished. "Humans are a free people. We will not become slaves." The council chamber erupted in angry alien voices. Some shouted that humans were too proud. Others said humanity should be grateful for the council's mercy. Vextar slammed his clawed hand on his seat's arm. "You have 30 days to accept these terms. If you refuse, the council will take action to protect the galaxy from human aggression." "And what action would that be?" Hyunwoo asked. General Korth's metal claws clicked together. "We will do what must be done to keep peace. Your colonies are far from Earth. They would be easy to correct." The threat was clear. Hyunwoo felt cold fear for the millions of humans living on distant worlds. But he also felt something else, anger that burned like fire. The human government will consider your offer, Hyunwoo said carefully. We will give our answer in 30 days. Good, Vextar said with a cruel smile. Perhaps humans are smarter than we thought. As Hyunwoo left the council chamber, Thren followed him. I am sorry, my friend, the cat-like alien said. I spoke against this, but they would not listen. They are afraid of what humans might become. What do they think we might become? Hyunwoo asked. Free, Thren answered. Truly free. And that scares them more than any weapon. On Earth, President Jin-Ho Lee sat in his office reading the report from the council meeting. He was a small man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp and strong. He had led Earth through good times and bad for 8 years. Now he faced the hardest decision of his life. His aide knocked on the door. Sir, Admiral Youngmi Choi is here to see you. Admiral Youngmi entered the office. She was the head of Earth's space military and one of the smartest people Jin-Ho knew. Her uniform was covered with medals from battles where humans and aliens had fought together against pirates and raiders. Mr. President, she said, I've been studying the Council's demands. If we accept them, humanity will never be free again. And if we refuse? Jin-Ho asked. Young-Mi's face was grim. They will attack our colonies first, try to make us surrender, by threatening innocent people. Jin-Ho walked to his window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12 alien species thought they could make humanity kneel. They were wrong. Admiral, he said, I want you to send a message to all our colony worlds. Tell them to prepare for trouble. And contact Dr. Yoonji Song. Tell her it's time to wake up the Prometheus Project. Young-Mi's eyes widened. The Prometheus Project was humanity's deepest secret. Even she didn't know all the details. Sir, are you sure? Once we start down this path? The Council started this path when they decided humans should be slaves, Jin-Ho said. We will not bow, we will not kneel, and we will not bargain with bullies. Captain Su-Jin felt the same anger as she watched the council meeting end. Her crew looked to her for orders. They trusted her to lead them through whatever came next. All hands, she announced over the ship's communication system. This is your captain. In 30 days, we may be at war. Not a war we wanted, but a war we will win. Prepare yourselves. Make ready our weapons. And remember, we fight not just for Earth, but for the idea that all people should be free. As Soul's Pride turned toward Earth, its crew began preparations for a conflict that would shake the galaxy. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. They did not know about the secret technologies hidden on distant worlds. They did not know that other alien species were waiting for someone to stand up to the Council. All they knew was that humanity would not surrender its freedom. And that would have to be enough. The 30-day countdown had begun. The alarm bells rang across New Busan Colony like the screaming of angry birds. Colonel Tae-Hyun-Yoon ran from his quarters to the command center, pulling on his uniform as he moved. Outside his window, he could see strange lights in the sky. New Busan was humanity's largest colony world, home to over 2 million people. The planet had green forests, clean oceans, and cities that sparkled in the sunlight. Korean families had come here to build new lives among the stars. Now those lives were in danger. Colonel! Sergeant Major Hansol rushed to meet him. Long-range sensors show a massive fleet dropping out of hyperspace, at least 300 ships. Tae-Hyun felt his stomach drop. New Busan's defense force had only 12 ships and a few orbital platforms. They were not ready for a real battle. Have they made contact? He asked. Yes, sir. They're demanding we surrender all military assets and prepare for occupation. They say they're here for peacekeeping exercises. Tae-Hyun laughed, but there was no humor in it. Peacekeeping with 300 warships? Send a message to Earth immediately. Tell them the Council didn't wait 30 days. In the command center, Tae-Hyun looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was huge. He recognized the ship designs, hegemony heavy cruisers, Dominion battle carriers, and ships from 6 other Council species. At the center of the fleet was a massive dreadnought that could probably destroy New Busan's capital city with one shot. "Sir," Communications Officer Yi Jun called out, "we're getting a transmission from the lead ship." "Put it on screen." The holographic display showed General Korth, the giant crab-like alien from the Council. His metal claws clicked as he spoke. "Human Colony Commander, I am General Korth of the Galactic Council Defense Force. You will immediately surrender all military, vessels, and weapons. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." Tae-hyun stepped forward. "General, this is Colonel Tae-hyun Yoon. New Busan is a peaceful colony. We are not a threat to anyone." "All human military assets are threats," Korth replied. "You have 1 hour to comply. Any ship that does not surrender will be destroyed." The transmission ended. Tae-hyun looked around at his staff. They were young officers, most of them born on New Busan. They had families in the cities below. "Colonel," Major Hyarim asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Before Tae-hyun could answer, the lights flickered. Every screen in the command center showed the same message. "Jamming fields active. No communications beyond planetary orbit possible." "They're cutting us off from Earth," Lieutenant Subin said. "We're on our own." Far away on Earth, Dr. Yoon-ji Song stood in a hidden laboratory deep under the mountains of Korea. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her mind was one of the sharpest in human space. For 20 years, she had worked on Project Prometheus, humanity's insurance policy against this exact situation. "Doctor," her assistant called out, "we just lost contact with all outer colonies. The Council is moving faster than we expected." Yoon-ji nodded. She had hoped they would have more time, but hope was a luxury they could not afford now. "Begin Phase 1 activation," she ordered. "Send the wake-up signals to all hidden installations. It's time to see if 20 years of secret work was worth it." Around the laboratory, massive machines hummed to life. These were not ordinary computers or communication devices. They used principles of physics that the Council thought humans had not discovered yet. They were wrong. The signals went out through space in ways that normal sensors could not detect. On asteroids, on moons, on planets that seemed empty, hidden human installations began to wake up. Technologies that had been sleeping for years came online. Back on New Busan, Tae-hyun made his decision. "All ships, this is Colonel Yoon. We will not surrender to bullies and kidnappers. All civilians are to report to emergency shelters immediately. All military personnel, prepare for combat." "Sir," Major Hyarim said, "we can't win this fight." "Maybe not," Tae-hyun replied, "but we can make them pay for every meter they take." The defense platforms around New Busan opened fire first. Bright beams of energy reached across space toward the Council fleet. Most of the shots were blocked by enemy shields, but a few got through. 2 smaller alien ships exploded in balls of fire. "General." Korth's response was swift and brutal. His dreadnought fired its main weapon at one of the orbital platforms. The platform vanished in a flash of light, taking its crew of 40 humans with it. "All Council forces," Korth transmitted on open channels, "begin pacification operations. Destroy any military targets. Civilian casualties are acceptable if they resist." The battle for New Busan had begun. Human ships darted between the alien vessels like small fish fighting sharks. They were faster and more agile, but the enemy had overwhelming firepower. Lieutenant Commander Du Young led 3 patrol ships against a Dominion cruiser. His ships fired missiles that struck the alien vessel's shields. For a moment, he thought they might punch through. Then the cruiser's return fire vaporized 2 of his ships. "This is Lightning Squadron," Du Young reported. "We've lost Brave and Spirit, falling back to defend the planet." On the surface, air raid sirens wailed across New Busan cities. Families ran for underground shelters. Children cried as their parents carried them away from their homes. This was supposed to be a safe world, far from any fighting. Mayor Ji-won of New Seoul, the planet's capital, stood in the emergency bunker beneath City Hall. She was responsible for 800,000 people in her city alone. "How long can the shelters protect us?" she asked her emergency coordinator. "Against orbital bombardment? Maybe a few hours if they use low-power weapons. If they really want to destroy the cities?" He didn't finish the sentence. In space above, the battle was going badly for humanity. Half the defense platforms were destroyed. 6 of the 12 patrol ships were gone. The alien fleet was moving closer to the planet. But Colonel Tae-hyun had one more card to play. New Busan had been chosen as a colony world for many reasons. One of those reasons was hidden in the mountains on the planet's largest continent. Emergency. Code Prometheus, he transmitted on a secret frequency. This is New Busan Command. Request immediate assistance. Deep in the mountains, automated systems that had waited for 15 years received the signal. Massive doors opened in the rock. Inside, weapons that the Council had never seen began to power up. Captain Sujin Park was in hyperspace, racing toward New Busan with a small fleet of Earth's fastest ships. But they were still hours away. Seoul's Pride and her escort vessels pushed their engines beyond safe limits, but space was vast and time was running out. Captain, her navigation officer reported, at current speed we'll reach New Busan in 6 hours. Make it 4, Sujin ordered. I don't care if we burn out every engine we have. Meanwhile, the Council fleet began landing troops on New Busan. Thousands of alien soldiers in powered armor dropped from orbit like metal rain. They carried weapons designed to stun rather than kill. The Council wanted living prisoners, not dead martyrs. The first landing zones were outside the major cities. General Korth was not stupid. He knew that fighting in the cities would cause massive casualties and create propaganda that might turn other species against the Council. But he had not counted on the human colonists' response. Instead of cowering in their shelters, many came out to fight. Farmers with hunting rifles shot at alien soldiers. Factory workers built crude bombs from industrial chemicals. Even children threw rocks at the invaders. This was supposed to be a simple occupation, General Korth muttered to his aide. Why are they all fighting? Don't they understand we're here to protect them? His aide, a young hegemony officer named Klex, looked at the reports coming in from the ground forces. Sir, they seem to believe we're the enemy. Ridiculous, Korth snapped. We're bringing them peace and order. But the humans of New Busan didn't want the Council's version of peace. They had come to the stars to be free, and they would not give up that freedom without a fight. As the sun set on New Busan's first day of occupation, fires burned in 3 cities. Alien troops controlled the spaceports and government buildings, but they faced constant attacks from human resistance fighters. In the mountains, ancient machines continued to wake up, preparing weapons that would soon change everything. And in the deep bunkers beneath the capital, Colonel Tae-hyun received a message that made him smile for the first time all day. It was from Dr. Yoonji Song on Earth, transmitted through channels the Council didn't know existed. Package delivery confirmed, the message said. Your special order will arrive soon. The Council thought they had won the first battle. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 days after the invasion began, the screaming started in Sector 7 of New Seoul. The Council forces had decided that the human resistance was too strong. General Korth gave new orders to his ground commanders, make an example that the other cities would remember. Colonel Tae-hyun watched the surveillance feeds from his hidden command bunker. Alien soldiers were going door to door in the residential district. They dragged families from their homes and forced them to kneel in the streets. The soldiers carried pain-stick weapons that could torture without killing. They're not just occupying anymore, Major Hiram said, her voice shaking with rage. They're terrorizing civilians. Tae-hyun clenched his fists. Record everything. Make sure the whole galaxy sees what the Council calls peacekeeping. The images were horrible. Human children crying as their parents were beaten. Elderly people forced to crawl through mud while alien soldiers laughed. Shops and homes burned while their owners were made to watch. But General Korth had made a mistake. He thought fear would break human resistance. Instead, it made them stronger. Teacher Min-ah had been hiding in her school basement with 20 students when the soldiers found them. The aliens herded them into the playground where other civilians were being processed. Min-ah watched Alien. Soldiers point weapons at 7-year-old children and felt something break inside her heart. Please, she begged the alien commander. These are just children. Let them go. The commander, a Dominion officer with scales like black metal, struck her with his pain stick. Min-ah fell to the ground, her body burning with agony. Humans must learn their place, the officer said. Resistance brings suffering. But from her position on the ground, Min-ah saw something the alien did not. A small device had been dropped near the school's fence. It looked like a piece of junk, but she recognized the human markings on its side. The device was a quantum transmitter, one of hundreds that resistance fighters had hidden around the city. Everything that happened here was being recorded and broadcast across the galaxy through channels the Council couldn't block. Far away on Earth, President Jin-Ho Lee watched the broadcasts in his secure bunker. Every image of Council cruelty made him angrier, but anger alone would not save New Busan. "Admiral Young-mi," he said, "how long before our relief fleet reaches New Busan?" "Captain Su-jin's ships will arrive in 2 hours," the admiral replied. "But sir, 12 ships against 300. It's not enough." Jin-Ho nodded grimly. "Then we use everything else." Dr. Yoon-ji's song was already moving. Her fingers flew over control panels in the secret laboratory. Around the galaxy, hidden, installations were coming online. Technologies that humanity had developed in secret for decades were finally ready to be used. "Prometheus installations are active," she reported. "Phase 2 is ready for implementation." "Do it," Jin-Ho ordered. The first sign that something had changed came when Council communications across the galaxy started failing. Admirals tried to contact their fleets but heard only static. Supply convoys lost contact with their escort ships. Command stations found themselves cut off from their forward bases. On New Busan, General Korth was reviewing casualty reports when his communications officer ran to him in panic. "Sir, we've lost contact with High Command. All long-range communications are dead." Korth's claws clicked nervously. "Check the equipment. It must be a malfunction." "No, sir. We've checked everything twice. It's like something is blocking all Council frequencies across multiple star systems." What Korth didn't know was that Dr. Yoon-ji's installations were using dimensional resonance technology to create interference in hyperspace itself. Council ships could still communicate with vessels in the same star system, but messages between systems were impossible. Captain Soo-jin Park brought Seoul's Pride out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Busan system. Behind her came 11 other Earth ships, including 2 heavy cruisers and a carrier loaded with fighter craft. "Contact New Busan Command," she ordered. "Let them know the cavalry has arrived." But when her communications officer tried to reach the planet, they got a surprise. A new voice answered from the surface. "Earth ships, this is New Busan Resistance Command. Colonel Tae-hyun here. Good to see you, Captain." "Colonel? How are you still alive down there?" Tae-hyun's laugh came through the speakers. "We had some help. Stand by for coordinates. You're going to want to see this." On the planet's surface, massive doors opened in the sides of mountains. What emerged made even the battle-hardened human soldiers gasp in amazement. Weapon platforms the size of city blocks rose from hidden silos. Defensive turrets that could punch holes through battleship armor extended from rocky peaks. For 15 years, automated construction systems had been building a hidden fortress inside New Busan's mountains. The colonists had thought they were just mining operations. The Council had never suspected that humanity was turning the entire planet into a weapon. "My God," Captain Su-jin whispered as her sensors detected the massive installations. "How many of these did we build?" "Enough," came Dr. Yoon-ji's voice over the secure channel. "Welcome to Prometheus Base 7. General Korth was studying maps in his command ship when the first energy beams erupted from New Busan's surface. The beams were not like anything in Council databases. They punched through ship shields like they weren't there. 3 hegemony cruisers exploded in the first salvo. A Dominion battle carrier lost its entire front section and began spinning out of control. Korth's own dreadnought shook as multiple hits overloaded its defensive systems. "Return fire!" he screamed. "Destroy those installations!" But the mountain fortresses were built to survive orbital bombardment. Council weapons struck armored surfaces and did little damage. Meanwhile, more beams reached up from the planet to claim more ships. In space above, Captain Su-jin led her small fleet against the confused Council forces. With the enemy's communications disrupted and their attention focused on the surface weapons, the Earth ships struck hard and fast. "All fighters, launch," Su-jin ordered. "Target their command. Ships, make them hurt." Seoul's Pride led the attack, its new weapon systems performing better than anyone had hoped. The ship's main guns fired coherent energy bolts that could penetrate multiple layers of armor. Its missile launchers sent out smart projectiles that could maneuver around defensive fire. Lieutenant Commander Bo-Ra Shin piloted her fighter toward a Dominion command vessel. Her squadron of 12 fighters looked tiny next to the massive alien ship, but appearances could be deceiving. "Tiger Squadron, lock onto target," she transmitted. "Let's show them what human engineering can do." The fighters released their weapons. Not missiles or energy beams, but something the Council had never seen before. The devices looked like metal spheres, but when they struck the Dominion ship's hull, they began to burrow inside. "What are those things?" the alien ship's captain demanded, as alarms rang throughout his vessel. He got his answer when the spheres reached the ship's power core. They didn't explode. They did something worse. They created a dimensional rift that tore the ship apart from the inside out. The massive vessel broke into 3 pieces, each section spinning away into space. Escape pods scattered like seeds on the wind, but the ship itself was completely destroyed. General Korth watched his fleet being torn apart by weapons he didn't understand. In 30 minutes of fighting, he had lost over 50 ships. The humans had lost only 2 fighters. "Order all forces to withdraw to safe distance," he commanded. "We need to regroup and call for reinforcements." But when his communications officer tried to contact other Council fleets, they heard only silence. The dimensional interference was still active. They were cut off and alone. On the surface of New Busan, the resistance fighters emerged from their hiding places. They had heard the explosions in space and seen alien ships falling like burning stars. For the first time in 3 days, they dared to hope. Teacher Minna helped her students out of the school basement. The alien troops were retreating to their ships, no longer bothering with their prisoners. The children cheered as they saw their tormentors running away. "Miss Minna," asked little Jae-ho, "are the bad aliens leaving?" "Yes, child," she said, hugging him tight. "The bad aliens are leaving." But not all of them left. Some of the alien soldiers, trapped on the surface when their ships retreated, continued fighting in the cities. The battle for New Busan was far from over. President Jin-Ho Lee received the first reports from the battle while sitting in his office on Earth. The initial success was encouraging, but he knew it was only the beginning. "Admiral Young-mi," he said, "send a message to all human colonies. Tell them what happened at New Busan. Let them know that humanity will not bow to the Council." "Yes, sir." And the Council's response? Jin-Ho looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was realizing that their easy conquest had become a real war. "They'll send everything they have," he said, "which is exactly what we want them to do." Dr. Yoon-ji Song smiled as she watched the tactical displays in her laboratory. The Council thought they were fighting a desperate human colony. They had no idea they were facing a trap that had been 20 years in the making. "Phase 3 is ready," she reported to the president. "Should I begin deployment?" "Not yet," Jin-Ho replied. "Let them send more ships first. The bigger the fleet they commit." 6 months had passed since the battle at New Busan, and the galaxy had become a very different place. What the Council had expected to be a quick punishment of humanity had turned into a nightmare that spread across hundreds of star systems. Commander Bo-Ra Shin stood on the bridge of her new ship, Inchin's Wrath. It was unlike any vessel in the galaxy, sleek, black, and completely invisible to normal sensors. The ship used quantum phase technology that Dr. Yoon-ji's team had perfected during the secret years. "Target acquired," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kyung-ho. "Council supply convoy, 3 cargo ships with 2 escort destroyers." Bo-Ra smiled. This would be their 5th attack this week. "Any civilian ships in the area?" "Negative." "Commander, the convoy is alone in deep space." "Good. Begin the approach." Inchin's Wrath moved through space like a ghost. The quantum phase generators made the ship exist slightly outside normal reality. Council sensors detected nothing, not even the space where the ship should be. The supply convoy was carrying food and medical supplies to a Council military base in the Rigel sector. The crews felt safe in deep space, far from any known human colonies. Captain Vorth, commanding the lead escort destroyer, was reviewing cargo manifests when his ship exploded. One moment he was reading reports. The next moment he was floating in space watching his vessel burn. The second destroyer tried to run, but Inchin's Wrath was faster. A single torpedo hit the ship's engine section, and it stopped moving forever. The cargo ships surrendered without firing a shot. "This is Commander Boras Shin of the Human Defense Force," she transmitted to the cargo ships. "We are confiscating your military supplies. Your crews will be taken to a safe location and released." Within an hour, the cargo ships were empty, and their crews were in escape pods with enough supplies to reach the nearest Council base. Boras' ships vanished into quantum phase space, leaving only wreckage and confused reports. This scene was being repeated across the galaxy. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck their targets, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Council admirals found their supply lines cut and their bases isolated, but the attacks were not random violence. Every target was carefully chosen. Military supplies disappeared. Weapons shipments vanished. But medical aid for civilian populations was left untouched. Food shipments to refugee camps continued unharmed. Admiral Kextar of the Third Council. Fleet studied the reports in his flagship's war room. His species, the Altani, were known for their strategic thinking, but the human tactics made no sense to him. "They're following some kind of pattern," he told his staff. "But what are they trying to achieve?" His intelligence officer, Colonel Zeph, pointed to the star map. "Sir, look at the locations of the attacks. They're not random. The humans are cutting off military supplies to our forward bases while leaving our civilian support intact." "But why? If they wanted to hurt us, they would target everything." What Admiral Kextar didn't understand was that humanity was fighting a different kind of war. They weren't trying to destroy the Council species. They were trying to show the galaxy that the Council itself was the problem. On Earth, President Jin-Ho Lee met with his war council in the deep bunkers beneath Seoul. The reports from across the galaxy were encouraging, but he knew the real test was still coming. "Dr. Yunji," he said, "how many Prometheus installations are now active?" The scientist looked up from her datapad. 47 installations across 31 star systems. Each one is producing quantum phase ships and dimensional resonance weapons. "And our allies?" Admiral Young Mi answered this question. 6 species have declared independence from the Council. The Nexari, Voltan, and Kepler Coalition are openly supporting us. 3 other species are secretly providing intelligence. Jin-Ho nodded. This was what they had hoped for. Humanity's resistance was inspiring others to stand up to the Council's tyranny. But not all the news was good. Intelligence reports showed that the Council was massing the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships were gathering in the Centauri cluster, preparing for what they called Final Solution Protocol. "They're going to try to destroy Earth," Admiral Youngmi said quietly. "Everything they have, all at once." "Let them come," Jin-Ho replied. "Dr. Yunji, is Project Deep Strike ready?" The scientist smiled. "More than ready, sir. We've been waiting for them to gather all their ships in one place." Far away in the Centauri cluster, Chancellor Vextar stood in the command center of his personal dreadnought, Galactic Authority. Around him floated the largest military force ever assembled, ships from all 12 Council species, their hulls bristling with weapons. "The human infection ends here," he announced to his fleet commanders. "We will jump directly to the Sol system and destroy their homeworld. No negotiations, no mercy, no survivors." General Korth, still angry about his defeat at New Busan, clicked his claws eagerly. "And their colonies?" "After Earth burns, we will hunt down every human settlement in the galaxy. This species will serve as an example to any others who think they can defy the Council." But as the massive fleet prepared to jump to Earth, they were being watched. Hidden sensors placed by human agents recorded every ship position, every weapon signature, every communication frequency. The information flowed through quantum channels to Dr. Yunji's command center on Earth. She studied the data with growing excitement. "They're bringing everything," she told President Jin-Ho. "Every major warship the Council has. If we can destroy this fleet, the Council falls forever," Jin-Ho finished. "Do it!" Across the galaxy, humanity's hidden installations began the most complex operation in military history. Ships that had been invisible for months suddenly appeared in empty space. But these were not like any vessels the Council had seen before. The new human ships were built using technology that Dr. Yunji's teams had developed during 20 years of secret research. They could move through dimensions that normal matter couldn't access. They could exist in multiple locations at the same time. Most importantly, They could create weapons that ignored conventional defenses. Admiral Kangdai Lim commanded the Seoul Defense Fleet from his flagship, Busan's Revenge. He was one of Earth's most experienced military officers, and he had been preparing for this battle his entire career. "All ships report ready," his communications officer announced. Kangdai looked at the tactical display. Earth was surrounded by defensive platforms, minefields, and patrol ships, but the real defenses were hidden in dimensions that Council sensors couldn't detect. "Dr. Yunji," he transmitted to the command bunker. "We're as ready as we'll ever be." "Acknowledged, Admiral. Council fleet jump in 10 minutes. The wait was almost over. In the Centauri cluster, 3,000 Council ships prepared to jump to Earth. On Earth, humanity's defenders waited for the largest battle in galactic history. But neither side knew about the third player in this game. Deep in space between the stars, ships from 6 rebel species were moving toward predetermined positions. The Nexari, Volthan, and Kepler coalition had been secretly building their own fleets using human technology. Captain Thren, the cat-like alien who had warned Ambassador Hyunwoo months ago, now commanded a Nexari battle group. His ships were armed with human weapons and crewed by aliens who had grown tired of Council oppression. "All ships," he transmitted to his fleet, "remember what we fight for. Not conquest, but freedom. Not empire, but choice." Similar fleets were moving through space toward the same destination, the Centauri cluster. While the Council's attention was focused on Earth, their home bases would be left defenseless. The trap was closing from multiple directions. The Council thought they were about to crush humanity once and for all. Instead, they were about to lose everything they had built over 1,000 years of oppression. In his command bunker on Earth, President Jin-Ho Lee watched the countdown timer reach 0. Across the galaxy, quantum sensors detected the massive energy signatures of 3,000 ships jumping to hyperspace. "Here they come," he said quietly. Dr. Yunji's fingers hovered over the activation controls for Project Deep Strike. Everything humanity had worked for came down to this moment. "Council fleet will arrive in Sol system in 30 seconds, her technician reported. "All installations report ready," came responses from across the galaxy. Jin-Ho looked at Dr. Yunji and nodded. "Execute." "Deep Strike," she ordered. What happened next would be talked about for thousands of years. As the Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace around Earth, they found themselves facing not just humanity's defenders, but something that shouldn't have been possible. The space around Earth began to ripple like water. Reality itself started to bend and twist. And from those ripples emerged weapons that could reach across the galaxy in an instant. The Council had brought everything they had to destroy humanity, but humanity had spent 20 years learning to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. The real war was just beginning. The Council's grand fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find a desperate Earth surrounded by a few human ships. Instead, they found something impossible. Chancellor Vextar stared at his tactical display in confusion. The space around Earth was filled with energy patterns that his instruments couldn't identify. Strange ripples moved through the vacuum like waves on an ocean. "Report!" he demanded. "Sir," his sensor officer stammered, "we're detecting massive dimensional distortions throughout the system. It's like space itself is broken." Before Vextar could respond, the first wave of attacks began. But these weren't normal weapons. Beams of energy erupted from points in space where no ships existed. They struck Council vessels and simply erased them from reality. The Dominion heavy cruiser Conqueror was hit by one of these beams. The massive ship didn't explode or break apart. It just stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was empty space where it had been. "What kind of weapons are these?" General Korth screamed over the communications channel. "Doctor," Yunji Song watched the battle from her command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Around her, technicians monitored displays showing impossible things. Human ships existing in multiple dimensions at once. Weapons that could strike targets through folded space. Defensive fields that made matter itself refuse to be destroyed. "Reality. Anchors are holding," reported her chief engineer. "Dimensional weapons are operating at full power." The reality anchors were humanity's greatest secret. They were devices that could lock the laws of physics in place, making it impossible for Council ships to use their exotic matter cores or dimensional drives. Without these technologies, the alien vessels became sitting targets. Captain Minsu Jiang commanded the new dreadnought Guangzhou Rising, leading a combined fleet of human and allied ships. The vessel was beautiful and terrible. Its hull seemed to shift and shimmer as it moved between dimensions. "Target the Council command ship," he ordered. "All weapons, full power." Guangzhou Rising's main guns fired something that wasn't quite energy and wasn't quite matter. The projectiles traveled through folded space, appearing inside Vextar's flagship without crossing the distance between the ships. The Chancellor's bridge exploded around him. Emergency systems activated, but half his ship's systems were simply gone. Not destroyed. Gone, as if they had never existed. "Impossible!" Vextar roared, blood running down his scaled face. "No species has technology like this, but humanity did have it because they had approached the problem differently than any other species. While the Council had focused on bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humans had focused on understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. The battle around Earth was going badly for the Council, but it was only part of a larger plan. While the Grand Fleet attacked Sol, rebel fleets struck at the Council's home systems. Captain Thren led his Nexari ships against the Dominion home fleet. His vessels used human quantum phase technology to appear inside the enemy formation without warning. "This is for every species you've oppressed," he transmitted as his ships opened fire. The Dominion home fleet was strong, but they weren't prepared for enemies that could appear anywhere and strike from impossible angles. Thren's ships danced through space like ghosts, striking and vanishing before return fire could find them. On the Volthan home world, Admiral Kesra watched as human-built orbital platforms came online around her planet. For decades, these installations had pretended to be normal defense satellites. Now they revealed their true purpose. "Begin bombardment of Council occupation forces," she ordered. The platforms fired weapons that could penetrate any known shield. Technology. Council bases on the planet's surface were destroyed one by one. The alien soldiers who had controlled Volthan for 100 years suddenly found themselves trapped and outnumbered. Back in the Sol system, the battle was reaching its climax. The Council's Grand Fleet was being systematically destroyed by weapons they couldn't understand or defend against. Admiral Kangde Lim coordinated the human defense from his flagship. His ships moved through space in perfect formation, their dimensional drives allowing them to be in multiple places at once. "Enemy fleet strength down to 60%, his tactical officer reported. "They're trying to retreat." "Don't let them," Kang Dai ordered. "If any of these ships escape, they'll warn other Council forces about our capabilities." The retreat became a massacre. Council ships tried to jump to hyperspace, but the dimensional distortions around Earth made it impossible. They were trapped in a system where the laws of physics obeyed human technology. Chancellor Vexatar's flagship was dying around him. Most of his bridge crew was dead, and fires burned throughout the ship. He stared at the tactical display showing his fleet being destroyed. "How did they do this?" he whispered. "How did humans become so powerful?" His science officer, one of the few survivors on the bridge, looked up from his damaged console. "Sir, I've been analyzing their weapons. The energy signatures, they're not using any technology in our databases." "What do you mean?" "I mean, they've discovered principles of physics that we don't know exist. It's like they've been studying the universe at a level we never imagined." Vextar laughed bitterly. The Council had thought humans were a young, primitive species. They had been wrong about everything. On Earth, President Jinho Lee watched the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The Council's Grand Fleet was almost completely destroyed, but he knew this was only the beginning. "Admiral Young Mi," he said, "begin Phase 4. Phase 4 was the liberation phase. Across the galaxy, human ships began appearing in systems where the Council had established control. But these weren't conquest fleets, they were liberation forces." Commander Bo-Ra Shin led her squadron to the Kepler system, where Council forces had been oppressing the local population for 50 years. Her ships appeared in orbit around the main planet without warning. "Attention, Council forces," she transmitted. "This is the Human Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to surrender and evacuate this system. Any attempt to harm civilian populations will result in your immediate destruction." The Council base commander looked at his tactical display in disbelief. 12 human ships had just appeared from nowhere. His own fleet numbered over 100 vessels. "Human ships, you are outnumbered 8-1, he replied. "Surrender now, and we will treat you as prisoners of war." Bora's response was swift. Her ships fired a single volley of dimensional torpedoes. Half the Council fleet simply vanished from existence. "You now have 29 minutes, she transmitted calmly. The evacuation began immediately. Similar scenes played out across dozens of star systems. Council forces that had seemed unstoppable were being defeated by small human fleets using impossible technology. But the most important battle was taking place in the Council's home systems. The Rebel Alliance, armed with human weapons, was striking at the heart of the galactic government. The Council capital, a massive space station in the Nexus system, had been the center of galactic power for 1,000 years. It was protected by orbital fortresses and defended by the Council's best ships. All of that meant nothing when human-built weapons could ignore conventional defenses. Captain Hyunwoo Kim, the former ambassador, now commanded a joint human-alien fleet attacking the capital. His flagship was the Liberation, a vessel that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. "All ships," he transmitted to his fleet, "remember that we're not here to conquer. We're here to free the galaxy from tyranny. The battle for the Council." Capital lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the station was in rebel hands and the Council government had ceased to exist. In his bunker on Earth, President Jin-ho received the message he had been waiting for. "Mr. President," Admiral Young-mi reported, "the Council capital has fallen. Chancellor Vexitar is in custody. The Council government has officially surrendered." Jin-ho closed his eyes and felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The war was over. Humanity had won not through conquest, but through liberation. "What are our casualties?" he asked. "Remarkably light, sir. Total human military deaths, less than 3,000. Allied forces lost about twice that number. It was an incredible victory. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated with minimal losses on the human side." But Jin-ho knew the real work was just beginning. Winning the war was easier than building the peace that would follow. Dr. Yoon-ji entered the bunker with a smile on her face. "Sir, we're receiving surrender messages from Council forces across the galaxy. Most of them are asking for terms." "What terms do we offer?" Jin-ho asked. "The same terms we've always offered," Dr. Yoon-ji replied. "Freedom, equality, the right to determine their own destiny." Outside the bunker, church bells were ringing across Earth's cities. Humans were celebrating in the streets, knowing that their children would grow up in a free galaxy. But in space around Earth, the real celebration was taking place. Ships from dozens of species were arriving to join the new alliance. The galaxy was learning what humans had always believed, that freedom was worth fighting for. The Council's 1,000-year reign of oppression was over. A new age of galactic civilization was about to begin. 1 year after the fall of the Galactic Council, President Hae-jin Nam stood at the podium in the Great Assembly Hall on New Geneva Station. The massive space station had been built in neutral space to serve as the headquarters for the Free Galactic. Alliance around her sat representatives from 47 different species. Some had been members of the old council. Others had been oppressed subjects for centuries. All of them were now equal voices in the new government. "Friends," Hae-jin began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "1 year ago, we fought a war to end tyranny. Today, we celebrate the first anniversary of galactic freedom." The applause was thunderous. Beings of every shape and size clapped their hands, claws, or tentacles. In the gallery above, families from dozens of worlds watched their representatives participate in true democracy for the first time. Hae-jin had been elected as the Alliance's first chancellor 6 months ago. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her words carried the weight of someone who had helped liberate a galaxy. "But we are not here to celebrate victory," she continued. "We are here to remember responsibility. Freedom is not something we win once and keep forever. It is something we must protect every day." In the audience, Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim nodded approvingly. He now served as Secretary General of Interspecies Relations, working to heal the wounds left by centuries of Council oppression. Next to him sat former Chancellor Vexitar. The once proud Dominion leader was much changed from his days of power. His scales had lost their golden shine, and his yellow eyes held none of their old arrogance. Vextar was not in prison. After the war, humanity had shocked the galaxy by offering amnesty to most council leaders who agreed to participate in truth and reconciliation hearings. Many species had wanted revenge, but humans insisted on justice instead. The strong should protect the weak, Vextar had finally admitted during his hearing. I spent 1,000 years believing the opposite. I was wrong. Now he worked with refugee organizations, trying to help species whose worlds had been damaged by council policies. It was small compensation for centuries of oppression, but it was a start. As Chancellor Hyejin continued her speech, Admiral Soo-Jin Park watched from the observation deck of her flagship, Soul's Pride. The ship was docked at New Geneva Station, providing security for the anniversary celebration. Soo-Jin had been promoted to Supreme Admiral of the Alliance Defense Force. Her job was to protect the new government and help former Council military units transition to peacekeeping roles. Admiral, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority message from the Outer Rim territories." Soo-Jin frowned. "What kind of message?" "It's from the exploration fleet, ma'am. They've made contact with something unusual." For the past year, joint exploration fleets had been pushing into previously unexplored regions of the galaxy. They were looking for new worlds to colonize and new species to welcome into the Alliance. Captain Min-Soo Jang commanded one of these fleets. His ship, Gwangju Rising, had been investigating strange energy readings in the Magellanic Void when they encountered something unexpected. "Captain," his science officer reported, "we're detecting artificial structures on the planet's surface, but the energy signatures don't match any known technology." Min-Soo studied the sensor data. The planet was covered with cities, but no one was answering their communication attempts. "Take us into orbit," he ordered, "but keep the shields up and weapons ready." What they found changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The planet was inhabited by a species that had been hiding from the Council for over 2,000 years. They called themselves the Eternal Watchers, and they had been waiting for someone to overthrow the galactic government. "We have watched the Council's tyranny for millennia," their leader explained during the first contact meeting. "We could have stopped them, but we chose to wait for someone else to do it. Someone who would build something better." The Eternal Watchers possessed technology that made even human innovations look primitive. They could manipulate time itself, create matter from pure energy, and travel between galaxies as easily as humans traveled between star systems. "Why didn't you help us during the war?" Min-Soo asked. "Because you didn't need our help," the Watcher leader replied. "You needed to prove to yourselves and the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for. If we had simply given you victory, it would have meant nothing." The discovery of the Eternal Watchers was just one of many surprises in the post-war galaxy. Dr. Yoon-ji Song's research teams were making new discoveries every day, unlocking secrets that the Council had suppressed for centuries. On Earth, she worked in a new laboratory that was open to scientists from every Alliance species. The old policy of keeping human technology secret was over. Now, humanity shared its knowledge freely with anyone who wanted to learn. "The universe is full of wonders," she explained to a group of young researchers from 12 different worlds. "The Council taught us to be afraid of discovery. We choose to embrace it instead." One of her students was a young Nexari named Kithara. Her people had been slaves under the Council for 300 years. Now she was learning to build the same dimensional weapons that had liberated her world. "Dr. Song," Kithara asked, "why do humans share their technology so freely? Aren't you afraid others will use it against you?" Yoon-ji smiled. "We learned long ago that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. The more people who understand the universe, the better it becomes for everyone." This philosophy was being tested across the galaxy. Former Council species were struggling to adapt to democracy after centuries of authoritarian rule. Some worlds had descended into chaos. Others had embraced freedom so enthusiastically that they couldn't agree on anything. On New Busan, Governor Tae Hyun-yoon faced these challenges every day. The planet had been rebuilt after the war, but the scars remained. Memorials to the siege victims stood in every city, reminding everyone of the price of freedom. "Governor," his aide announced, "the Dominion refugee ships have arrived. 300,000 civilians seeking asylum. Tae-hyun nodded. These were Dominion citizens who had fled their home worlds after the war. Many Alliance members wanted to turn them away, remembering decades of oppression. But humanity had insisted on offering sanctuary to anyone who renounced the old ways. "Prepare the settlement camps," he ordered, "and make sure they have everything they need." "Sir, some of the human families are protesting. They say these are the same people who attacked our world." "Then we'll show them what makes us different," Tae-hyun replied. "We don't punish children for their parents' crimes." The integration of former council populations was one of the Alliance's biggest challenges, but it was also one of its greatest successes. Cities across the galaxy now housed mixed populations of former enemies working together. Captain Thren had become a symbol of this cooperation. The Nexari officer now commanded a ship with a crew from 8 different species, including former Dominion soldiers who had chosen to serve under alien command. "It's strange," he told his mixed crew during their weekly meeting. "A year ago, some of you would have killed each other on sight. Now you're family." Lieutenant Vexeling, a young Dominion officer, spoke up. "Captain, my father served on the ships that attacked Nexari colonies. I spent my childhood believing your people were inferior. I was wrong about everything." "We were all wrong about many things," Thren replied. "That's why we're here, to learn better." These personal transformations were happening throughout the galaxy, but the most important changes were taking place in the halls of government. The Alliance Constitution had been written by representatives from every member species. It guaranteed rights that had never existed under the Council: freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of belief, and most importantly, the right to leave the Alliance if a species chose to do so. No government should hold its citizens by force, Chancellor Hyojin had argued during the Constitutional Convention. "If we're doing our job right, people will want to stay." So far, no species had chosen to leave. If anything, the Alliance was growing as more worlds applied for membership. As the anniversary celebration continued on New Geneva Station, a special ceremony was taking place in the Memorial Garden. This section of the station honored all those who had died fighting for freedom: humans, aliens, soldiers, and civilians alike. President Jin-Ho Lee, now retired from active politics, laid a wreath at the memorial wall. The names of the dead were carved in stone. Thousands of beings who had given their lives so others could be free. "They died believing in something better," he said to the gathered crowd. "Our job is to make sure they were right." Among the names, on the wall was Teacher Min-ah, who had died protecting her students during the siege of New Busan. Next to her name was a small plaque with her final words: "Freedom is worth any price." Also remembered was Colonel Tae-hyun's friend, Major Hee-rim, who had died when her ship rammed a council dreadnought to save a refugee convoy. Her sacrifice had allowed 30,000 civilians to escape to safety. The memorial ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Then, as had become tradition, children from every Alliance world released glowing lanterns into space. The lights drifted away from the station like stars, carrying the hopes of a free galaxy into the infinite darkness.